Hello, and welcome to Back to the Future with Evan and Gabby. Double features, double takes. This is the podcast where we talk about two movies, one new, one older, what makes them a good pair, and how the history of films influences the present. I'm Evan.
And I'm Gabby.
And today we are discussing Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein and BRAM Stoker'S Dracula. Two films about the monsters and friends that men made along the way. Man, there's a lot of friends in these monster movies, you know? It seems like the most important thing keeping men from the brink is community.
Yeah, exactly. That's what every movie is trying to tell us, and we just keep collectively being like, nah.
Yeah, I mean, I think these two movies should be shown to cure the male loneliness epidemic, right? They're both cautionary tales.
Of like what would happen if you had eternal life and no one to share it with.
Oh yeah, no companions, right?
Yeah, no companion.
And the other one, sometimes you just need a bunch of pals to go crossing the snowy pass with to destroy a legendary evil.
Yeah, no problem there. Normal. Applies to everyday life.
Gabby, how have you been since the last time we recorded?
I have been pretty good, pretty busy, but not so busy that I didn't notice what's been happening on our very curated film algorithms. Evan, did you know before I sent you a red alert text message that the Wuthering Heights trailer was dropping this week?
No. What was I doing when you sent that? I remember being somewhere and then feeling like my phone suddenly needed my full attention.
Yeah. I literally sent like every red emoji and just all caps, Wuthering Heights trailer released. And I was at work. I was being paid during that time to send that text message. I want that on record for my employers.
Yeah, was I about to watch something? I feel like I saw the new Richard Linklater movie, Nouvelle Vague, this week, which was pretty fun. I nothing to write home about, but certainly very fun. And if anything, just makes you really want to watch Breathless again. And I'm a big fan of Breathless, so. But I'm trying to remember if that's when you texted. I could check my phone, but alas, it's 10 feet away from me.
It's better this way.
Yeah. Should we? We've been talking about this movie for a while now. The Emerald Fennell, number one enemy of the pod, in some senses. But
I'm gonna feel so awkward if I ever meet her in person because all I've done is shit talk her for like 3 years.
Do you think she would like it though?
I hope so. I hope she would be like, ah ha ha.
She'd find it funny. Yeah.
Silly American girl. You don't have an Oscar
or an Emerald Mine.
Either. I have neither. Maybe someday I can have one. I think the Emerald Mine is more likely.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah,
Emerald Mines are a dime a dozen these days, you know?
Yeah. We have them all over, famously.
All right. But yeah, we've been talking about this trailer a lot. About it. And so we thought it might be fun if we watched it live on air. These are our genuine reactions to this trailer. We did not watch it ahead of time, so
all I know about it is that Charlie XCX has done the music for it. If not, I believe it's a whole album for this movie. Charlie, why? Why are we associating with Emerald?
Because she believes, I think
she believes in love, and I can't deny her that.
I mean, they're the original brats.
Maybe. It's the brats we made along the way. But that's all I really know about the trailer. She's done the music. The music is featured in the trailer, and I've seen the new poster, which is mostly just Jacob Elordi maybe like kissing and or licking Margot Robbie's chin area, not quite the mouth. It's like a hover. It's a little weird.
Interesting. All right, well, let's see if we can glean any knowledge from that as we watch the trailer for Wuthering Heights.
Take a wife.
A wife? What wife?
80-yard Foley.
What wife?
You're not enough.
I mean, this music's great.
Not for her.
Music slapping. Oh. Oh, Valentine's Day.
Right. Was this shot in VistaVision?
It's a great question. Okay, now the music is too modern.
I will not stand for that fiend. I will not have you near her.
That's not a fiend, that's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, what are they talking about? It's Jacob Elordi.
So kiss me. And let us both be damned.
Wow.
Okay.
Come undone. This Valentine's Day, come undone.
What do you think, Evan? That's a lot to deal with right there.
It is a lot. I mean, I can't say I'm I think it's a well-cut trailer in the sense that it's a lot of, it's showcasing what Emerald Fennell does best, which is just some really beautiful images, like, working together with her cinematographer and production designer to build these, like, beautiful frames, very evocative with the music, like there's a lot of just general, like, anticipation there. But and I just don't I don't know. I think it looks cool. I don't know enough about Wuthering Heights to, like, be like, ooh, where do I stand on this?
That's the thing, though. Her movies always look cool. I think she's a good director. I'm afraid about the adaptation part and the screenplay part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it looks very, like you said, evocative and just maximalist. And I mean, I'm gonna see it, not even just as a hate watch, because I want to take in the images, but also, I mean, I'm sure I probably know more about Wuthering Heights than you, but I'm definitely not an expert. I might reread the book. I might fuck around and reread the book before this movie drops. Because I don't think I've read it since high school. But I think I bristled at the casting of this movie when it was first announced, like many others did. Just because Heathcliff is not supposed to be Jacob Elordi. Just to be, like, really general about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's described in the book as, like, brutish, like a bore. Like, he's not supposed to be like, oh, you clean up, you get him a haircut, and he's Jacob Elordi.
Well, you see the sideburns on that guy? That's kind of brutish.
Wow.
Speaking of someone who has not trimmed their sideburns in a long time.
Wow, Evan. Are you going for the Elordi by February? Is that what you're going for?
That's what I should tell people I'm doing. Elordi by February. That's a pretty good tag.
I think you could do it.
Better than
like
come
3
undone.
months.
Yeah, I got 3 months.
Yeah.
Grow
I'm
out
not
the
done
hair.
my ass. Yeah. But yeah, I think it looks cool, but I think the casting, I'm not sold.
Mm-hmm.
Although, not to spoil the episode we have in store for our listeners, but I am growing more fond of Mr. Elordi against my better judgment, against my will. He's charming me.
Yeah, I one thing I know there was a lot of talk about the casting, and there's been a lot of teasing of this movie and how like sexy it might be. And I feel like I was actually glad that the trailer didn't dive into that realm as much. It's a lot more suggested stuff as opposed to showing anything more immediately over. Yeah. So I thought that was nice, at the very least.
This is a Valentine's Day release. So we'll see if it plays hard into date nights across the country, across oceans. I'm sure that it's releasing on the same day, purposefully, even abroad. And it's starring 2 pretty large stars abroad. Is this the first time we're getting Jacob Elordi's, like, natural accent in a movie in a long time?
Oh yeah,
I mean,
probably, right?
He's always doing an American accent, which, I mean, is the parts that he's been playing, but I frequently, like many others, forget that he is British.
Yeah, it is funny because, like, I know most people know him from um
Euphoria.
Euphoria, right? But I always just remember him, not that I've even seen the movie, but I'm just like, oh, that's the guy who was in that The Kissing Booth movie where they made 3 of them for some
Yes.
reason.
For some reason, 3 of them.
And this
And
movie
then
is a Warner Brothers movie too. So this
it
is coming off a
is.
really hot year for Warner Brothers, right? And be interesting to see if they'll be able to keep up the streak they've got going on.
Or will this break it? Will this break the streak, Evan?
Certainly anything's possible.
We're also still, speaking of accents, we're still not letting Margot Robbie be Australian.
Yeah, she hasn't been Australian on film in a long time. She totally could have done it in A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, you know?
An episode that remains a mystery for our
Listen,
listeners
when
and
that
viewers.
bonus episode drops, it's gonna be so incredible.
It's gonna shatter all expectations. There's nothing I could say that really encapsulates how I tear into that movie.
It's not being held for any creative reason. It's just
No.
the audio was a little off that day.
Yep, that's it.
That's it. I
stand
forgetting
by all of my takes.
Keep forgetting to go back to it.
I stand by what I said.
We're excited to watch the movie eventually when it comes out. I mean, it just out of pure curiosity.
I'm really excited to go see this movie on Valentine's with you instead of with my significant other.
Oh,
I'll tell her that's our plan.
Yeah.
After this recording and see what she says.
Good luck. Well, let's talk about another Jacob Elordi movie, Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein film. Gabby, how did you watch Frankenstein?
I watched this movie Evan style, and by that I mean
No.
I watched it at home and I watched it in 2 sittings, which I never do. Boo, hiss, I know. But I watched it in the chapters that it is broken up into. So this movie is broken up into the creator's tale and the creature's tale. Spoiler, I do not think that watching it all in one sitting would have enhanced my enjoyment of the film.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure you logged the film on Letterboxd, and I was like, man, I gotta catch up. Gabby already watched it, so I have to make sure I watch it so we can do the podcast. And then I texted you about it, and you're like, wait, I don't think I finished it. I was like, what do you mean?
I did it.
I sat through the whole thing.
Like the next day, I went to Netflix and I was like, oh, I still have 40 minutes of this movie. What is going on?
I'm so mad.
I'm mad. I'm mad that it wasn't over when I thought it was over.
Well, I mean, you had a whole nother tale to watch.
I did, and I did like that tale better than the first tale. But
that's true. Yeah, it is. It's the better one. Yeah, I watched it, all in one sitting. If you're not aware, this movie is quite long. It's
very long,
150 minutes. So that's 2.5 hours right there. Yeah, watched it. Just took it all in. Let it wash over me. At home on my TV, as Netflix intended. There were several film screenings of this, or theatrical screenings, but also some screenings of the film in 35mm in Los Angeles. As well, I think it's around the country. You could have seen this in select theaters digitally. This is one of those movies that I think would have really benefited from a longer theatrical release, especially wider, just because I think this is a movie that really demands your attention, so to speak, in a certain sense. And when you are just sitting at home, I think sometimes it's a little bit, it's kind of easy to get distracted, to walk around, to pause. No shame in getting a little snack or something, right? But when a little snack turns into 3 little snacks, you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. But
then you're maybe not as there for the movie. So we've talked a lot about Netflix's distribution with films on previous episodes. So it'll be really interesting to see moving forward what lessons they've taken from this year and what things they feel should be put into theaters.
Yeah. I agree. I do think that I would have I'm not sure I would have liked the movie more, but I do think that I would have um maybe experienced it more as it was intended to if I had seen it in a theater. Um, Maybe if not just because it wouldn't have been broken up the way that I watched it, but also I mean I've texted you about this many times just to be like, what is going on with why everything on Netflix looks a certain way? Like, why does it all look so flat? Um, but I guess this is simply a compression issue, and that's just how it's gonna look.
It's hard to say, all the time. It's I would love to like speak to not only like the people who work on set, like who, because Netflix has a list of approved cameras. It's a
Mhm.
large list, but it does mean that like at a certain budget level, you are using cameras that everyone is supposed to be using the same camera and delivered in a certain way. And I'm imagining that in the post production side, Netflix is trying to optimize for whatever the average TV or phone screen is, right? Like, can this look
Mhm.
the best across the most types of screens? And I think it does just, we do just get this like kind of quote unquote Netflix look, which, you could watch certain scenes in Frankenstein and certain scenes in Hitman, and you could potentially be like, oh, these look kind of similar. I'm not
They're the
saying that
same.
I'm not saying that is 100% the case across the board. It is certainly not, right? But there is a kind of like you said, Gabby, this kind of like flat, like less contrasty in the image, like type of look that seems to pervade a lot of Netflix releases, their TV shows included, right? So there is this kind of
Yeah.
more uniform look going across the things that they are putting out, that are
Which
Netflix produced, right? Not like from
yeah,
TV, other networks and things like that.
which I find a little disheartening just because they at least they used to claim that they were very like creator friendly and that they, want to bring to life a lot of visions from visionary directors. And if you notice, they are the place to go most often when a director like Martin Scorsese is like, I want to make my $300 million passion project and no one else will give me the money for it. So here's The Irishman. Is that Martin Scorsese's best movie? No. Um, and it's also one of his longest movies, and it's also one that maybe took a lot of digitizing and experimenting. And I just think that Netflix ends up with a lot of these passion projects, Frankenstein among them, and that it maybe directors or creators are compromising a little bit to get their passion projects made and financed with generous budgets and limited notes. But they're okay with it looking maybe the way that it looks. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, well, let's circle back to that point. Let's maybe give some context to Frankenstein for folks who might not have heard about the movie or didn't get a chance
Yeah.
to watch it. Right. So Frankenstein
Although
premiered.
this is very popular. This is a very popular movie right now, Evan. It's
That's
really
true.
gaining steam.
Yeah.
I do think that if it were in theaters longer, people would have gone to see it. But also, why didn't they release this on Halloween?
It probably wasn't ready yet. I mean, it was ready.
Lame.
But
It was ready.
It was ready.
It premiered at Venice. It was ready.
So yes, Frankenstein premiered at the Venice Film Festival on August 30th of this year, 2025, and was released on Netflix on November 7th after a limited theatrical release. This film was directed and written by Guillermo Del Toro, based on the novel written by Mary Shelley when she was only 18 years old. She wrote this when she was 18. That's pretty incredible.
Mhm.
Produced by Del Toro, J. Miles Dale, and Scott Stuber, starring Oscar Isaac, Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster himself, Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz, and Charles Dance. If you're not familiar with the story of Frankenstein, you will be now. Victor Frankenstein creates.
I guarantee you know. I guarantee you've seen a Frankenstein movie, even if you think that you have not seen a Frankenstein movie.
Yes, but this again is the original tale, right? This is Victor Frankenstein, played by Oscar Isaac. He creates new life by resurrecting a compilation of corpses in the form of the creature, aka Frankenstein's monster. The creature comes to resent Victor for creating him and makes it his mission to see Victor suffer. and we see this epic tale that spans across the course of these their lives, or Victor's life at the very least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally, Gabby, what do you think of this movie?
I didn't care for it. If my tone didn't give that away earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think I'm not against long movies. I'm totally okay with a movie being long if it needs to be long. I don't think this movie needed to be this long. And I mentioned that it's cut into two tales, two chapters, and they're very uneven chapters. Like the creatures chapter is like 50 minutes, and Victor Frankenstein's chapter is like an hour and a half. Like it's a lot. It's very uneven to me, and it's just too much Victor. And I know that we're not supposed to like Victor, but I can't tell if it's an Oscar Isaac issue. I can't tell if it's just a script issue where like they went really, really far back into Victor's history and his issues with his parents. And I understand that Frankenstein is kind of a bad dad movie, or bad dad story, about like somebody creating a life and then, being a bad parent, essentially. But, I thought that all the time that we spend with Victor as a child is kind of misplaced, not necessary to understanding the character. And frankly, it's just less time that we get to spend with Oscar Isaac. And I'm not sure Oscar Isaac is perfect casting, but he is like essentially the star of this movie. And I thought it was a weird choice to have like 25 minutes where we have a young version of him just like kind of having a crush on his mom, ? And that's like his origin. It's like he has a crush on his mom, and his dad is mean and also a doctor, and he wants to be a doctor who is more accomplished than his dad so that he can, I guess, marry somebody like his mom. I don't know. It's a little weird.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. It is really interesting. I mean, you touched on this earlier, right? Like Netflix seems to be the home of like giving auteurs, the license to pursue these passion projects. I think, I'm not, a studied Guillermo del Toro fan. I've only seen Pinocchio and The Shape of Water from him.
That is abysmal. You haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth?
Nope, too scared.
Evan. Okay.
So
it's not scary.
So yeah. But I think that's why this is an interesting perspective for me, right? As someone who hasn't, I know people have been waiting a long time for him to make this movie. This is something he's been very vocal about wanting to make for such a long time. It kind of reminds me of Luca Guadagnino talking during his Suspiria remake press tour when he was like, when I was a kid, I used to take the posters of Suspiria and write directed by Luca Guadagnino on them, because that's how much he wanted to make that movie again, or make a movie like that, right? And so with Del Toro, he wants to do this for so long that I think that what we see here, it's interesting to think about, this as a passion project. Is this what he imagined he would make when he was younger, and he wanted to stay true to that younger version's vision of the Frankenstein story? Or is this a version of the story that he's landed on now that he's made tons of movies? And in particular, The Shape of Water, which is almost kind of like a Frankenstein story in a certain sense. It is.
It's really interesting because he has made movies with these themes, the themes explored in Frankenstein a lot, throughout his career. And I'm definitely not a Del Toro expert either. I've definitely seen more than you. I've seen Pan's Labyrinth. I own the Criterion. Thank you very much. He does tend to explore these similar themes about men being the real monsters among us very often, and how creatures are often not the ones to be feared. They are actually treat the gentle, others,
right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think that he's explored those themes beautifully in other movies.
Mm-hmm.
This one just felt really, really overt to me. And maybe it's because I've seen a lot of his other movies and I've seen him explore this very deftly in other stories. But I'm interested in what you just said. Is this how he pictured it? I'd be really interested to know if he always pictured it looking this large scale, because something about his earlier movies is also that, a lot of the makeup, a lot of the effects were done practically. So especially in something like Pan's Labyrinth. And it's very different to see him shift gears this way and do something very computer graphics heavy.
Yeah, I mean, some of it does feel like the Wicked effect, right? Like, it does seem like there is like kind of a blending of what's practical and what's not. And the things that are practical might just seem like they're fake because of like the sheen that needs to be put on everything in order for it to look uniform, especially when the distribution platform is Netflix. Like, I was gonna say too, like, the things that they do have in their control, right? When they probably are working under a certain budget constraint, is that they are able to like fill the frame with things, right? Like, take Wes Anderson's, Roald Dahl adaptations for Netflix. Like, he just filled, he did his best and filled the frame with everything he could in order to like hide the CGI stuff. That is not necessarily the same case here, but like, as pictured in, Gabby's background and my background that we're using today on the video versions of these, I do feel like the lab is pretty well built out, It's just when you start
elements you could tell are built.
It's just when you start looking outside and things like that where the incongruity of that starts to feel a little off kilter for what you would expect from Del Toro.
Yeah, it's definitely more wide than what we're used to from him. And I don't know, I hate to like go and like be the person that talks about the budget, because I do think that, people like Guillermo Del Toro have earned the right to large budgets. I don't think we should always be questioning how much something costs. Like, we had this conversation with One Battle After Another and PTA getting a ton of money to make that movie. Did it have to cost that much? Probably not, but he used all that money and it's on screen. And Guillermo Del Toro, I mean, maybe we gave him too much money is something that is a thought that I had while watching this more than once. Are studios and streamers now just giving people too much money and like no checks or notes or anything, and like we're just going a little overboard, like it feels like.
Okay, so you're saying too much money, not in the like production design sense or whatever, just like because it was just like too much free reign, like type of thing. Okay, so that's a slightly different, transition point there, but I do think that is a very valid question.
Yeah, too much time, too much, like, yeah, I think they should, if they're going to put all that money on screen, then by all means, give them the money. But if it's just going to be like a long period of like, putting something together that doesn't necessarily come together at the end, I don't know. Maybe we should be asking a few more questions.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that like, this is this is a fantasy epic, right? Like the things that work in this movie for me and, perhaps for you as well, I don't want to fully speak for you, is obviously Jacob Elordi's performance in general, but I also thought the makeup looked really good. There's a lot of really great...
The makeup looks amazing.
There's a lot of really great effects in the beginning. And again, a lot of the more practical levels of production design and things like that feel really good. So... there is stuff that works, right? But like when we're talking about, maybe giving creators too much control, it is kind of an optics thing then too, right? It's like if Netflix is going to say, Guillermo del Toro, Mr. Del Toro, we are going to finance the project of your dreams. What is that? And he goes, it's Frankenstein, and it's going to be 2.5 hours long. And we're not going to spend a lot of time with the monster. And it's actually, the monster's, kind of like, he's cute. And they're like, we didn't want that. He's like, well, you said no notes. I mean, who are you to infringe on that? You said you'd make finance my dream.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. If Guillermo del Toro was sitting across from me and I was a Netflix person with a blank check, I'd probably be like, sure, do your best, do your worst, do what you want to do. But we just want to say that we have we made Guillermo del Toro's passion project. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I were also in that chair and I saw Jacob Elordi's, if I saw the Jacob Elordi performance, I would have been like, okay, maybe we even out these chapters a little bit more and we put more of him in the movie.
Yeah.
Because he's giving the better performance. And I mean, I get it when many people, they hear Frankenstein, they think about the monster, they don't think about the man. It's the whole debate over like, you know, the title is Frankenstein, but it's referring to the man. It's not referring to Frankenstein's monster who doesn't really have a name. But, you know, I just think that spending more time or evenly splitting these parts would have made for quite literally a more balanced movie, but also a tighter movie, a more, you know, like, I think that just because it's luxuriating so much in the grandeur of everything, I was a little bit bored and a little bit put off by it, especially in the Victor half.
Yeah, and that brings me back to the question that, you know, we kind of set us off here too, is like, is this the version of the movie that he saw when he read the book, right? When he read the book and was like, I would love to make a version of this, was he like, I want to spend more time with Victor because I want to explore the nuances and the gray area of mortality that this man is occupying? Because on one level, you know, he wants to do something that I imagine most humans have wanted to do, which is to how do you conquer death? How do you master that so that you can prevent your loved ones from ever dying, from ever facing that kind of pain, you know? But the way it manifests is that, like, you realize he's actually just creating life, and
that he doesn't really care necessarily about about conquering death. What he cares about is being a world-renowned surgeon and having more accomplishments than his father, like, and his family kind of putting him on the same pedestal that his father was on, or at least that's what this movie insinuates, by making his family life and his childhood such a prominent part of the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it is about him, like, exploring the moral gray area. Like, I think that would have been a more interesting movie.
Yeah, I guess I also maybe don't necessarily agree with you, though.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Because, but I mean, it's not an aspect for sure. You know, he does talk about how important it is to carry on this family name and things like that. But we do see him get, like, there is that moment where he is, you know, Christoph Waltz plays this financier character, right, in the movie, who basically gives Victor Frankenstein this lab, and the real crux of it is that he wants to be put into this new body, right? He wants to be the man who can conquer death because he's quite ill.
Sick.
Yeah. And when Victor Frankenstein realizes that, he says, I can't do that because it's not going to work.
he's sick. He's literally, I think he has syphilis, right? Like, he's his blood, his organs, everything is infected, so he can't put that into the new body that he's built. It makes sense, but Christoph Waltz is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Of course it makes sense.
Yeah, he's like,
I gave you all this money.
Yeah. Oh god, dude, that scene with Christoph Waltz, they're like in the bathroom, he's like peeing in front of him. So
oh my god, where he's like hands-free peeing.
Yeah.
And that just seems like, I'm not a guy, but that's like, seems impossible to me. Okay.
I think when men do it, it is like a thing that, you know, when they're really trying to like show off.
That's what it comes across as. I'm like, what are you trying to prove right now?
Yeah, that he can do it. He's in control.
Okay.
He's
he very in control.
He knows where the stream goes, okay?
Okay. Good for him. Let him have that control while he can, because he is going to die very quickly.
But all that being said, you know, there is that moment where, and I did find it kind of interesting that, like, it does seem like he is prioritizing the experiment of it all, right? Which is just to see if he can even do this in the first place. And that's kind of where I'm like, well, maybe, you know, that idea is interesting. Maybe that's why we're spending so much more time here, because when we do get to the monsters, the creature's tale, and it is Jacob Elordi as this monster who is now thrust into the world, and he is, you know, helping this family in the woods, being their quote unquote spirit in the forest.
Well, I mean, even before that, he's born quite literally in the lab. I mean, the most, I guess, climactic scene of the movie is his creation, is Victor trying to harness the lightning to create him, to like put life into him, like shock the body to life. And at first it doesn't work, you know, like Victor thinks he's a complete failure, even though this didn't work. But then, you know, I do think that scene is very effective when we realize that it did work, and that he has come to life. The creature has come to life, and it's kind of like a little like Bambi learning how to walk scene. Where the creature's like, what am I doing here? And it's very innocent and it's very gentle. And I think that it tells us a lot about the creature, and Elordi's performance tells us so much with no words. You know, like he's not speaking for like the first 40 minutes that he's in this movie. He's literally only saying Victor.
Yeah.
That's the only word he knows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that the movie does shift when Elordi takes the screen. I mean, quite literally, he's also very large, as we have established in everything else that he's in. He's dwarfing everyone, but especially
he's 6'5", according
medium
to Google.
build king Oscar Isaac. And so I do think that the movie takes a different tone and shifts, and quite literally is alive when Jacob Elordi comes on screen. And I never thought that I would live to say that, but I haven't been like a Jacob Elordi hater or anything. I've just kind of been underwhelmed by him.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's fine. I guess he is handsome and he is tall. And he's a fine actor, but he hasn't blown me away in anything, you know? But this performance, it just felt like a different gear for him. And I think that it really shifted something in the way that I viewed him as a performer and this movie. Like, it just shifted the tone completely for me.
Yeah.
And it is the only time that the movie fully works for me.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting when an actor who is kind of like a, you know, handsome male lead for the most part, is able to take a swing like this and be very successful, you know, like be able to like really showcase the kind of acting parts of acting, you know, outside of like his normal looks. You know, we had a brief discussion via text that, like, you know, previously Andrew Garfield was cast in this role. Which I personally think, you know, when we get to the creature's tale and, you know, the creature is a little bit more emotive and kind of childlike wonder as he's, you know, moving through the world. That's where I was like, okay, I can kind of see 5'10" Andrew Garfield doing this. But what I can't see 5'10" Andrew Garfield is being the kind of like, you know, this creature with presence in the beginning of the movie where you don't know what he's gonna do because he's so new
you have
to
be afraid of him at first. Like, you have to feel Victor's fear of him for it to work. You have to feel like, oh my god, this massive creation of mine who doesn't know their own strength, doesn't know any words, like, you know, is essentially a very large baby. You know, what is it going to do to me, and what am I going to do to it? How do we coexist at all? Can we coexist at all? But I don't know. I can't picture Andrew Garfield in this role, even in the more gentler parts of it. I think it's just a stature thing. Now that I've seen Jacob Elordi in this role, I'm like, oh God, I don't think that Andrew Garfield is just like, even if they really made him up and like put him in the, you know, the whole works of it, like that it would be as imposing as Elordi.
Yeah, like when he's like roaring, anytime he's roaring, especially on the ship. I know there's obviously a lot of vocal stuff in post, but like, you know, I mean, you can also picture Andrew Garfield saying, "I'm coming back for all of it," but like,
Definitely.
but not like, his social network stuff. But I don't know if it would have been to the same degree that Jacob Elordi has put on display here.
Yeah. Andrew Garfield, an actor that I like,
Yeah,
by the way.
same.
I just don't know if this would have been. I think this may be a recasting that actually worked in the movie's favor.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't know. What else? What do you think of the rest of the cast of this movie? Do you have Oscar Isaac thoughts?
I don't think Oscar Isaac bumps me in the same way necessarily, but it does feel a little like him and versus Christoph Waltz versus the actor who plays his brother versus Mia Goth and Elordi. It does feel like everyone's a little bit not on the same page in a weird way. I do think there are moments where Oscar Isaac on the ship, who these kind of like, narrative structure of the movie, when he's talking to the people on the ship, sometimes it's really working and then sometimes it's like kind of not.
I think most of the ship stuff does work for me, but it's just
it's when he's
the
like
very
being
broad,
very showy and
yes,
kind of like a little, showboaty,
very broad.
Yeah.
But I think he's good. I mean, Oscar Isaac is never bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a broader performance than I was expecting from him.
Mm-hmm.
And Mia Goth, borderline wasted. Give her more.
Yeah, there was nothing for her to do. And then she
was
just falls in love
herself.
with tall Jacob Elordi.
Who among us has not fallen for a man just because he is tall? All of us. But I think that the performances are pretty solid throughout, but Elordi is definitely the standout. He's even getting some awards buzz for some Best Supporting Actor awards buzz, which would be really exciting. It would be a pretty cool first nomination for him. I'm sure that he will be nominated for an Academy Award at some point in his life. So I will say first nomination.
So just to circle back on something we mentioned earlier. So The Creature's Tale, there's a large chunk of it that takes place with the creature safeguarding a family that's in the middle of the woods, a family that tried to kill him initially upon meeting him, and then he kind of hides out in their barn. And the patriarch of the family, an older blind man, refers to him as a spirit of the forest. So he kind of takes on this like moniker around this family. So it's been a while since I've read the book, but I do think that there is like some creative like interpretations here. I just had a few questions for you about this scene, or about this whole group of scenes, right? There's a moment when the old man is teaching the daughter how to speak, or how to read words and things like that. She has like flashcards. He's like, "What is this?" She's like, "It's an eye." And then he turns it around. He goes, "What is it?" And she says, "It's an eye." Did you think in that moment he was turning the card so that the creature could see it behind him? Because there is this inference that the old man always knows that there is this presence. Because to me, I just didn't understand what he was doing. You know what I'm talking about?
That makes that scene more interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with yes, just because that would make it more interesting to me. I didn't really catch it when I was watching it, or I didn't really like put it together. I was just kind of interpreting that as, I mean, my brain was just jumping ahead to, oh, he's going to teach the creature how to read.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. He reads Paradise Lost. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course he does. Yeah.
The other thing, too, there's this moment where when the creature finally meets the man, and they talk and he learns how to read, and they share dinner and things like that. The man is asking him, like, what does he remember from his old life? Because clearly he doesn't remember much. And he says, like, I can like piece together things that like I can, feel like my feet on sand and blah, blah, blah. And at first I thought like, oh my God, are they going to explore whose brain he has like originally?
That would have been sick. And
I was like,
they didn't do that.
It's not. It's just him recalling his basic memories, right? Like his formative. Yeah, which is interesting then, because you really are like, oh my God, even in that time, he truly was a child. Like he was a baby. He was forming memories and was not conscious of anything fully, even though he was this imposing force, And I think it really, this moment that we do take to kind of like sit with the creature, to your point earlier, is that like we should have almost spent more time with it. But I also feel like this is something that Del Toro has done before, right? In a sense that maybe he was like, we've done it. Like, let me show you the key beats that I want to show you, and then we're gonna move on.
I can see that. I can completely see that perspective. I guess it's just me identifying more what works for me in Guillermo Del Toro movies. And that side of Del Toro definitely works more for me. The softer kind of like introspective side rather than the like visual opulence side. I know you haven't seen Crimson Peak, but like Crimson Peak is very like all about them visuals.
That's actually on the top of my watch list, but over Pan's Labyrinth.
Really? Yeah. Okay, that's a bad choice, but as long as you're gonna watch both, I think it's okay. But Pan's Labyrinth is an incredible like storytelling movie, and Crimson Peak is not. It's about the visual opulence, and it's a very beautiful movie. But and the performances are very specific to the tone, but good. I think it's just me identifying more what works for me in Del Toro movies. So but this movie is not made for me. It's made for like a wider audience, and it's made for people, it's almost made for the audience of Guillermo del Toro. So I hope that he got to make exactly what he wanted to with all of this money that we've talked about. But I was more compelled by the second half. And then I was really, really let down by the ending, which just kind of was a big thud for me. Like, just came with a real big thud. This ending.
I mean, hot take. Did you know that Victor Frankenstein was the monster the whole time?
I think that the movie tries to tell us that like 18 times, and then it just decides that. It tries to tell us. It very overtly is telling you like subliminally pointing arrows at Oscar Isaac for the whole movie. It's like monster, 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 and then his dying brother has to use his last breath to be like, "You are the monster, Victor."
And he shoots his own brother. Like, it's like, it's crazy.
Oh my god. I was like, why? Why was this necessary? Like, we're really just hitting the nail on the head here. Rest in peace, subtlety.
I loved when he was just like, all right, I'm going back out. I'm gonna get the monster. And like, no one's like really on board because they're like, wait, didn't you just like kill your brother?
Yeah, no.
So goofy.
Makes no sense. But even, I wasn't even talking about that scene. I was talking about the very end where like, so we spend the whole movie kind of very overtly exploring this theme of, are men the real monsters? And then at the very end, like the creature is reunited on this boat with Frankenstein, and they have like a father-son moment. Like, quite literally, the creature calls Frankenstein father, and he forgives him. And like it's just like a very like almost out of place scene.
Yeah.
Like a very soft heart to heart kind of scene after we've just seen a montage of the creature like trying to torture Frankenstein, and Frankenstein trying to kill the monster and like being unable to because he can't die. But like it just didn't feel like the same movie, and it felt really, really wedged in, like that Guillermo del Toro wanted to say something about that, like, men are monsters, but we can all forgive each other, but what makes us human is the ability to forgive. Something like that. Something very touching, but again, does it belong in this movie?
Yeah.
It just feels a little tonally off.
It's a really great point, because I couldn't quite remember if that's how the book actually ended. So
it's not. Spoiler.
It was really interesting because as the movie was like coming to a close, I did feel like I had a hint. I was like, it feels like there's gonna be a reconciliation of father and son. And lo and behold, it happened. And so I felt like that was the natural conclusion of what he was trying to do with this. But to your point, it not didn't quite feel earned. It felt like a moment you see in movies. I feel like maybe you see this kind of like in Inception, when they kind of like, spoilers for Inception, where they kind of like fake a death in the dream. But like it feels like you are saying these things because you know you're on a deathbed, and like the other person is forced to accept it because otherwise they would be a bad person.
Right.
And then the movie posits that creature, spoiler, it is the creature, but that person who is saying those things is basically, well, now this is the truth that I live by, and that I have forgiven the person that has done all these terrible things. And it didn't feel earned, so to speak. Yeah.
No. Earned is the word I'm looking for. Like it just feels like very like we're beating a dead horse at this point.
Yeah.
And it just didn't really fit. And I felt like, this big epic, this, Creature's Tale epic that he's made, maybe it could have gone out with a little more of a bang.
Yeah. And then it leaves you wondering, like, what's next for the creature? Because,
it doesn't feel complete in that way.
Because now we have capped off Victor's story quite well, is that he had a goal, he has done bad things, but he has attempted to repent for it in the final minutes of his life, and the creature forgave him for those things. But now the creature is left fending for himself, and instead of
eternity?
getting on the ship with these people who know he's not a monster now, pushes the ship away. And then he just walks into the ice.
That's so true.
He could have just gotten
on the ship.
He could have just been a captain.
Why didn't he get on the ship?
He could have been a legendary pirate captain for the rest of his life. He could have trained under that guy who was very nice.
That's a spinoff that I would watch. That's a spinoff I would watch, is like Jacob Elordi as the creature, like becoming a ship captain to the North Pole. Love it.
I think we need to write this movie.
Let's do it.
I think we just need to write this movie.
Next Christmas, coming to Netflix, written by me and Evan.
Frankenstein and the Seven Seas.
Ooh, I love it.
Frankenstein's pirate. Oh my god, we could the possibilities are endless. And what I think it all ties back to, though, I like that you wrote this in the outline. Like, what does it mean to be a creator, right? And that is clearly like a theme that is like going through this. Like, if whether you're a parent or someone who, with the responsibility of creation, and what do you owe the thing that you have done, have made. Watching this movie, especially with you kind of articulating that question, really reminded me of Miyazaki's movie that came out a few years ago, The Boy and the Heron, which this movie, Boy and the Heron, is really interesting because it feels kind of like inaccessible. There's a lot going on in Boy and the Heron that you're just like, God,
requires
what is
3 viewings
but
minimum.
It does feel like it's the culmination of what Miyazaki was looking to do with all of his movies. It shares many themes that he's done, and he's like, I'm gonna put it all on the page, back, just put it all in the movie, and this is what it's gonna be. And that's kind of what I feel like Guillermo Del Toro is doing with this, and in a certain sense, is that he's like, I've had all these themes, and I've had this passion project that I've really prided myself in wanting to create. How do I like fuse the two and make it this like vision that is something that I want to put out in the world? And I think it's just doing too much, like Boy and the Heron.
Right. I mean, The Boy and the Heron is doing a lot, but I would still argue that it's done better than it is here. But I do think that what I do find interesting about the creator perspective from Guillermo, that I feel in my most generous readings here, is that he's kind of interrogating himself as a Victor figure, that he's thinking aloud on screen about what it means to create characters, what it means to create life on screen, and what legacies those movies and those characters are going to say about him, what will follow him, and what will outlive him. And I think that that's really interesting. And I think that reflecting on the good and the bad that comes with having a project that is so consuming as an artist is really interesting. Do you think Victor Frankenstein is a tortured artist, or is that what we're getting at?
Yeah, I guess so. Him and Taylor Swift got to get drinks and talk it all out.
That's an album I want to hear.
The Tortured Scientist Department.
The Enlightened Monster Corridor.
Life of a Creature.
Ooh, Life of a Creature. That one wins. That one wins.
Well, I guess speaking of the life of a creature, there is the immortal life of creatures in Bram Stoker's Dracula, another monster movie, modern classic. We'll get into it.
I say yes. I already say yes. Don't even need a break.
And we'll be right back.
Yes, Evan, let's talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, written by James V. Hart, based on the 1899 novel by Bram Stoker, Dracula, produced by Coppola, Fred Fuchs, and Charles Mulvihill. Starring Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and Keanu Reeves. Ever heard of them?
Winona Ryder looking the youngest she's ever looked, except in... then I remember she's in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, she's in Beetlejuice. What are you talking about? But it's kind of funny because we've been, I've been rewatching and my partner's been watching for the first time Stranger Things in anticipation of the new season. And it's just so funny to see Winona Ryder, like an adult, a full adult, like a neurotic mom, and then go like, it's like Whiplash. Like I was watching that last night, like her yelling about the magnets falling off her fridge.
Oh yeah.
And then I put this on and she's like this young, like teenager being seduced by Dracula. It's a lot, but she's out here. She did the work. And quite literally with this movie, did you know, Evan, that Winona Ryder is the one who brought this script to Francis Ford Coppola?
Oh, I did hear about this. Is it because they were working on something else together?
So they were working on something else together. Fun fact, they were working on The Godfather Part 3 together, and Winona Ryder was supposed to originally play the role of Michael Corleone's daughter, who was eventually
notoriously infamously
played by Sofia Coppola. We don't talk about The Godfather 3 in my house, but Winona was originally supposed to play that part and she dropped out late. And so she kind of wanted to clear the air with Coppola or make good with Coppola and still wanted to work with him. So she brought him this script and apparently very similar. Stop me if you've heard this before, Evan, but I was going to say Dracula. Coppola said that it was like among his dreams to make a Dracula movie because he loved the story from like camp when he was a little boy or something.
Oh, wow.
Stop me if you've heard this one before.
Crazy. Interesting.
I know. But Winona, we can thank her for this movie in many ways.
Wow, that's awesome. I had no idea that was like part of the lore of this movie. That's great.
I mean, this movie does come right after Godfather 3 for Coppola. So he needed to clear that air.
Yeah. He needed this to the injection into his career. Well, the film did win Best Costume Design and Best Makeup at the Academy Awards. Also recognizes among Coppola's best films. I mean, he's got a bunch of heavy hitters in there, that's for sure.
I mean, it's not up there with like, this is not on the same par as like The Conversation and The Godfathers and Apocalypse Now.
Sure, yeah.
But it's right. It's like right under there. Like Coppola has so many worse movies, like a lot more. So yeah, this is definitely up there for me.
Yeah.
And every time I rewatch it, I just kind of forget how horny it is, which I told you earlier. And yeah, this is an extremely horny movie. Which I would argue that Frankenstein is pretty asexual, other than Jacob Elordi just like exuding what he naturally exudes. even through the makeup.
Yeah. I guess we could have said it earlier, but damn, that creature is aura farming? Is that what the kids say?
Ooh, okay. Spirit of the aura.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's right. I'm young.
Yeah.
Well, we have a little more of a complicated box office bet with this movie, but I think that it's important to note it just on the Dracula side of things. Frankenstein, as we noted, had a very limited release and made $422,000 just about in box offices on a $120 million budget. Dracula made $216 million back in 1992 on a budget of $40 million. And as of 2023, adjusted for inflation, that box office is closer to $474 million, making it one of the highest grossing vampire movies of all time, Evan.
Probably just behind Sinners.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right?
Maybe. Did Sinners crack 400?
I don't remember. I think so. I think
it cracked 400.
Because you'd have to compare Sinners and then probably like the Twilight movies, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we're going to talk about the Twilight movies at some point on this show. I promise.
I will say, I bet you Frankenstein drove a lot of subscribers to Netflix. I bet you Frankenstein drove more subscribers than The Irishman, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
110%.
Because
and like,
it's more likely that the people who don't have Netflix who would want to watch, it's more likely that the people who want to watch Frankenstein don't have Netflix than the people who would want to watch Irishman don't have Netflix or didn't have Netflix, right? Whatever
and also the audience is so much broader for Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what Frankenstein is, even if you don't think you do, even if you haven't seen any of the classics, with Frankenstein in the title, you know that story.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing with Dracula. Like, even if you haven't sat down and sat throughout an entire Dracula movie or a Nosferatu movie, you do know this story.
Yeah, because
and it becomes very apparent. Like, once you sit down, you're like, oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, because these are, this is kind of like a joke, but like these are kind of like ancient texts in a way. These are like kind of like,
they are,
modern like myths and stories in a certain sense that like people have now crafted their own versions of in popular culture, right? Like, I'm sure, like, one of my favorite things I think as like an adult is revisiting older like cartoons that we watched growing up as kids and being like, oh, that's just the plot of this movie, or they just did this movie in a 22-minute episode, Yeah. Very
precisely.
funny. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, speaking of, I will give a small summary of this movie, but I'm sure that if you've seen any vampire movie, you know what's coming in Dracula. So it starts with Vlad Dracula. He returns from war to his new bride, who has committed suicide because she believed him to be dead. And Dracula then renounces God, becomes a vampire, and many years later becomes infatuated with a woman who he believes to be the reincarnation of his beloved wife.
Okay.
Played by Winona Ryder.
One thing I don't understand.
In both parts.
In both parts, that's right, which is pretty wild.
Both parts.
One thing I didn't understand. So, did Dracula, played by Gary Oldman, did he know about Winona Ryder's character being reincarnated before he started working with the people from London? Like, what I didn't understand, or I haven't looked back into it, about why he wanted to go to London and buy up all that property in the first place.
I mean, I think it's purposefully left ambiguous, but
okay.
But I mean, I think we're meant to believe he's pursuing something or someone. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's entirely plausible that he knew, but we don't know how or why he knew. I always kind of read it the opposite way, where he is, I don't know why he's buying the land. Maybe he just wants to move, Evan. Jeez. It's hard to buy real estate. He loves
Transylvania, He never left home. He's a hometown hero.
But he knows that property is the greatest investment you could have, Evan. He has like an immortal, eternal life. That's got to be really expensive. He needs to invest wisely. So it's interesting that you had that question, because I definitely always read it the other way, that it's kind of like a happenstance.
Yeah.
That like he sees this picture and he becomes really obsessed and, you know, like needs to keep Keanu Reeves weak so
Yeah.
that he can pursue her. And, you know, the Keanu Reeves, you hadn't seen this movie before, right?
I had not.
What do you think of Keanu Reeves in this movie?
He gets a bad rep for this movie, or bad whatever.
He's fine.
I think
fine.
he's fine because he actually has so little screen time comparatively, and I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be in this movie. I thought he's perfectly fine.
I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. I think Gary Oldman is just like doing a lot.
Yeah.
And doing so much that he's just like dwarfing everyone else on screen. But what did you think about the choice of the increasingly graying hair?
I thought it was funny. I thought because he's like,
I think it's really funny.
He's weak now, you know.
Yeah, he's so funny. Yeah, but even I thought about speaking of a more recent creature tale, I was watching this for the first time since seeing last year's Nosferatu by Robert Eggers, and I mean it's the same story.
Yeah,
it
right.
simply is. But it, you know, I was like kind of comparing and contrasting them in my head and just thinking like, oh, okay, so this is another tale where an immortal man is obsessed with a mortal woman, and you know how to get the love into his life, kind of. I think Nosferatu is a lot bleaker. Like I think that something that drew me to this as a pairing for Frankenstein is not just that it's another major auteur making a monster movie with a substantial budget, but it is also kind of about giving these creatures that exist in our modern canon emotion. And like Dracula says in this movie that he has loves, he will love again. Like, you know, he has a heart, you know, he says, I have a heart. And, you know, but then at the same time, he's saying at the very end or towards the end, he's like, there's no life left inside of me. So, you know, it's a really interesting contrast in that way. And I think that Del Toro is doing so much and Elordi is doing so much to give the creature emotions and empathy and human characteristics and using them to soften that character. And I think that in Dracula, giving Dracula those elements of emotion and anger and passion and love is used more as a weapon. And I think it's just really interesting how traditionally you do think of Frankenstein as a monster, and in this movie he's really not. He's a soft boy.
Yeah, because man is the monster the whole time, right? It's in
of
the
course,
contrast.
It's the monsters we made along the way.
But it does take a little bit more of the intrigue out, because like once we realize, oh, this is the path, then you know we're like, great, we can see what you're doing. Whereas, yeah, we do get like the story of Dracula unfolding because we see him as this kind of like older barren figure, and he's decrepit, but then and the forms that he takes, you know, one of which is behind Gabby right now. But we see it's all in service of trying to find this love, but to achieve it in, you know, kind of sense, in distorted sense that has to be achieved the way the monster has to do it, you know, which is brutal because, you know, he's just out there converting women into vampires.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what his undead heart is telling him.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of setting the mood, I do think that this movie also sets that gothic mood. You know, that kind of gothic storytelling a little bit better than Frankenstein. And I think that a lot of it is in the effects and the way that it's shot. This movie is shot by Michael Bauhaus, and it's incredible the way that this movie looks still to this day. And Coppola apparently insisted on not using any modern effects when making the film. He used a lot of optical effects, miniatures, and forced perspective, which really pays off. I think that it grounds this movie for me. Like, even though it's obviously not real, it feels real. Like it feels like it's just like a historic costume drama.
Yeah.
Whereas, Frankenstein kind of feels more grandiose and more like drowning in this opulent world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of that is the choice to kind of mix those effects, as you were saying earlier, the Wicked effect, if you will.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a lot of just like really great tone setting with this movie overall, just like from the jump, we have
the reds.
The reds, yeah. And then just like, I mean, in the scene behind me, and like you were talking about just the way these shadows like are, it's very theatrical, very maximalist, right? But it's very consistent in the way that it does that overall. It's also like the way, there's obviously that joke that goes around on Twitter or any social media platform all the time, right? When it's just like, we need men to stop being influencers. We need them to become gaffers. I can't see these movies, right? And in a sense that this movie is similar, because it's very selective about the lighting, especially in the darker scenes, right? Whereas in most things, especially in Netflix movies, a lot of these nighttime scenes are going to be very broadly lit, very soft, and you don't get that same kind of punch, and you aren't able to see, right? But it is that kind of like push and pull of that, where it's like, yes, is this believable? No, the moon wouldn't look like that. Nighttime wouldn't look like that. But it's for the effect of the movie. It's to set this tone and to set this look to make it feel like all of one piece. And you buy it, right? That is part of the whole charm of filmmaking. You present a world and the audience buys in.
And it's part of, bringing it full circle, being a creator.
Yeah.
Francis Ford Coppola as an auteur is very in control of the look of his movies. Like, say what you want even about his less successful movies, like
One from the Heart.
Megalopolis looks like trash. It looks bad. I could say that with my full chest. But you know what? It's consistent. It consistently looks the same throughout the whole movie. Like that vision is complete. And I mean, I could say that about most of his movies. Like, I think that all of them feel like they're Francis Ford Coppola movies. And this movie specifically is very operatic, very dramatic, as you alluded to. But I don't know. I just don't feel the same. I do usually feel that way about Guillermo Del Toro movies, but I didn't feel that way about Frankenstein, and that I think that bothers me.
Yeah, I don't think within the movie it doesn't feel like I'm watching different visual takes on the thing. I think the movie feels consistent, right? I think we really are just reacting to this weird Netflix CGI sheen. It's the Netflix look plus the CGI sheen. It's something else, and it just doesn't feel good. It feels cheap. Sorry.
Yeah, it does, and it shouldn't feel cheap because they're putting so much money into it.
Yeah, because and again, I love all the stuff in the lab and everything there, but then you just start to see the edges in a weird way, and it feels, I don't know. Yeah, you just kind of like, you want to be more excited than you really are.
I do want to feel that way. I mean, I just feel like, Del Toro is an auteur, and he is someone with a really specific visual style, and I think that Netflix has quite literally cramped his style.
That's good.
That's my thought.
That's good.
That's my thought.
That's the clip.
And
yeah, but I mean, this is my first time watching Dracula. I thought this was a great movie, really great watch. I definitely want to see this in theaters if I can. Definitely keeping my eyes out for the kind of rep screenings there. And I think I also, you wrote this in the outline, but I was really surprised at how horny this movie was.
It's so horny. I always, like, it takes me aback. Like that scene with Keanu Reeves and the brides, when they're first kind of like seducing him and like keeping him weak by like cutting him and sucking out his blood. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like,
but he was impotent with fear. He never cheated on Winona
I know,
Ryder.
he never cheated. He did not cheat. He was simply really aroused and then passed out because they took all his blood. He remained true to Winona, but can she say the same?
Were the Brides of Frankenstein the original? No, I was just going to say something fucked. I'm not going to say that.
Cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah. what was I gonna say? But can Winona say the same? She was not true.
No. She really...
She fell for Dracula.
She said, "You're a prince? I changed my mind. Let's go to the museum together."
That scene is so funny. Like, she's being so rude and so mean to him. And it's just like, find somebody else. Wouldn't you like to hear from my husband about this? And we're like, girl, you're not married yet. We know Keanu has not put a ring on it. He thinks he's too poor. And you know what? Maybe he is. But, but yeah, then she hears like, oh, you're a prince.
Yeah.
she's like, sorry, I was so rude.
That just goes to show, like, at that time in England, if you were just said you were royalty, you could get away with anything.
You know, I feel like with those days have passed, and now people are like, oh, you're royalty? Yeah. Awkward.
It's really interesting for all the, like, hullabaloo of, you know, Keanu Reeves saying him and Winona Ryder are still married because they, like, said wedding vows in that scene. I was just kind of, you couldn't hear those, like, right?
No,
like,
they're
like playing music, or like there's a voiceover going on or something. I was like,
yeah,
what?
You can't hear the vows, but the wedding does happen. And I think, according to Keanu, at least, they are still wed.
Yeah.
And neither of them, I don't think they're married in real life. Right? So they could very well be married to each other.
Man.
What an attractive couple.
Yeah, truly. I mean, this
really, again, adds to the horniness of the movie, keeps it grounded. These two hot people in love with a monster coming between them. Who can't relate?
A monster literally coming between them.
Literally between them.
I thought Anthony Hopkins was pretty funny in this, especially because
he's really funny.
Like Van Helsing, I think, like, as a modern day thing, you kind of like, you're not thinking of Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. I mean, this even just, as an adaptation is really interesting in that it kind of focuses more on the Vlad the Impaler and the Van Helsing of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And that link in which other vampire movies or Dracula movies kind of play with it loosely. So I thought that was interesting just about the adaptation itself. And how both of our auteurs that we're spotlighting are kind of operating with some artistic license. Mm-hmm. But again, I think that it works more to Dracula's credit.
Yeah. I love that scene when they just get all the guys together to kill Lucy. That was crazy.
Getting the gang together to kill Lucy.
Yeah, and then they do it again one more time. Like, it is
the whole team is getting back together to kill Lucy.
And then they go back out. They to
behead her.
They go back and they're like, you know what? Jack, or whatever Keanu's name is, Harker. What's his name? Jonathan. John. All right, Jonathan Harker. We're gonna go to Transylvania with you. We're gonna ride horses, and we're gonna go. And then
we're gonna be boys.
One of the dudes dies, like Lucy's husband, right? He dies at the thing, but Keanu's like, we can't. Like, she's got to do the rest, and he doesn't even get to kill on Dracula, and he sacrifices his life to just be a bro.
I know. To just be bros.
Yeah.
To just have friends.
Because what else are you doing back then? There's no cell phones. There's no Instagram. You're just
riding horses with your boys,
slaying vampires.
Is what you're doing. What did you think of the ending of this movie?
Like from
not
where?
As much
from
a traditional ending. Just the very end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think this, when we talk about like humanizing the creature, I think this was the most effective part of it, right? Is that she has basically decided to like spend her life with him in a certain sense, but he is dying, and then he is like, this is what I've been looking for, like, in love, in a sense, will just like set me free from this curse. And that is the end of the day. If that it coincides with love, coincides with the end of my life, and so be it. Like, I will be at peace finally. Right? Like, a big part of this beginning of the movie is that like his wife's soul, because she committed suicide, is not in heaven, it is in purgatory.
Right.
And so
that's why he renounces God.
Mm-hmm. And now that it was funny at the end where he's like, where is my God? I'm like, dude, you said he's gone. You renounced him.
You renounced him. You said that in your own words.
Yeah, but it is kind of brutal. She has to kill him, and then she looks up and she sees the two of them together. Yeah, I was like, besides the fact that Lucy's husband died and didn't get to kill Dracula, I was like, dang, look at that. What?
Yeah.
You have thoughts
I
on
mean,
the
I
ending?
agree. No, I agree. I think that it's another example of like having a big emotional ending, but not, it doesn't have that same, like it, I guess it does feel more earned just because the whole movie is driven by this need for love and this need for him to be reunited with his great love. And I think that because that's driving the whole movie and is present in almost every scene that we have with Dracula, it just feels more cohesive.
Mm-hmm.
But I was wondering if it worked better for you just because it is another big like kind of emotional ender.
Yeah, it was nice to end this, like you've said, this like a very operatic movie. Like it ends on this kind of like quieter note, you know, between just the two of them. We don't know what Mina does after that, you know, like if she goes back with Jonathan or anything. So yeah, I did. I will say I also wasn't expecting the movie to be so long, so I kind of was like, oh, thank God, last scene, here we go.
It's another long one,
Yeah.
But for some reason, this one like breezes by for me. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I'm just having
this
a good
one's
time.
fun. That's the difference. You
It's
know,
fun.
They're both fantasy epics, but this one's just really fun. And then you get the cuts to Renfield where he's just screaming out his window.
Oh my God, just screaming.
This whole movie's Renfield's fault. By your reading of the movie, if Renfield had just kept it together and didn't succumb to Dracula's whims or wiles, it would have been fine. You would have never seen the picture of Mina.
Nope. Could have been fine. Yeah. Renfield is the real villain, and therefore a man. Man is the villain. He's the monster.
He was the monster the whole time.
Because he was promised eternal life, Evan, and who would blame him?
You have some other ties to Frankenstein written down here.
I do. I thought that the double casting in both was pretty interesting. Mia Goth in Frankenstein is playing the brother's wife or wife to be, and the object of Oscar Isaac's of Victor Frankenstein's affection, who strikingly looks like his mother, who was also played by Mia Goth.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
wow.
Yep, she's double cast. Okay. And in this movie, obviously Winona Ryder is double cast as the first wife that passed away, and as Mina. Gary Oldman is pulling double duty as Vlad and Dracula. And I think Anthony Hopkins even has 2 appearances.
Yeah, he's like the priest in the beginning.
He's the priest. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting tie. Yeah. We talked about monsters having emotions. And just the idea of this like eternal life / eternal suffering, which both of the monsters seem to be really grappling with. And specifically an eternal life without love, you know, like the creature at the very end, he's coming to Frankenstein to ask him for a companion because he realizes that every other companion that he can make that is a human will die. So, and he will outlive them, even if he wants to protect them, you know, like he wants to protect the old man and his family, they will leave in some way. And Dracula, same way, would rather die and face what is waiting for him than not have his wife back. Real wife guy Dracula
original wife guy,
real wife guy.
That should be the YouTube thumbnail.
That's
original wife guy?
Wife guy Vlad, that guy with the space buns for hair. Yeah. Who says no?
God. Yeah. Who says no indeed? Yeah, so
I don't have a lot of alternate pairings for this movie though.
Yeah, we talked about The Boy and the Heron, which I think could be interesting in the kind of like more auteur sense of it, like the kind of meta sense, and like if this is a culmination of these creators' works. I feel like you could, you know, it could have been interesting to pull like another Frankenstein story to pair.
Young Frankenstein,
which I haven't seen. I've always wanted to.
What?
Frankenweenie.
Evan.
Frankenweenie.
I mean, I thought about this just like today when I was driving the car, and it's funny because it did come up earlier in the pod, but I did think about The Irishman as an alternate pairing just because it's kind of a different monster movie, if you know what I mean. And it is like another big budget Netflix auteur piece. So I was like, that could have been interesting, but I feel like I would have spent that whole pod talking about the de-aging of Robert De Niro's face, but not the inability to de-age his body. So he still looks like an old man when he's walking, but he has a young man's face.
Yeah. Very similar problem to Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson had that in Captain Marvel. Very similar issue.
A movie I haven't seen.
If we were to have paired this with another Guillermo Del Toro film that was a better Frankenstein story, what would the movie have been? Shape of Water?
Shape of Water.
Yeah. Which is
I think that's his best Frankenstein movie.
It's filled with this romance and this yearning and if this creature can be with the other.
I cape up for Shape of Water. I like that movie. It's got a lot of haters. I like it. I think Sally Hawkins is incredible in that movie.
Yeah, she's great.
Doug Jones, who plays the creature, frequent Guillermo del Toro collaborator, was originally supposed to play the creature like back when Del Toro wanted to make this movie like 20 years ago. But that would have been really cool.
Yeah.
Another very tall man. But that's kind of all I thought about. This was the first, Dracula was the first movie that kind of came to my mind when I was thinking about pairings for this one.
Nice. Yeah. And I'm really glad that it did, because I truly don't know if it's something I would have sought out otherwise. And now I'm more than happy to have seen it and am eager to watch it again.
There you go. So if you work at our local rep theater in Los Angeles, keep Evan posted on scheduling for Dracula.
You can DM me from the official New Beverly Instagram account. Yeah. I'll accept.
I will accept it. And just speaking of, since I chose the pairing for this one, Evan, you have a pairing pick coming up next. Would you like to tease that for our listeners and viewers?
Yes. Next week on the podcast, we will be covering the new movie from Joachim Trier, Sentimental Value. This is him reuniting with Renata Rensby from Worst Person in the World, and Stellan Skarsgård is in it, Elle Fanning. Gabby and I actually watched the movie a couple days before we recorded this episode, so we're really excited.
We were sitting in the same theater in the same row, separated by about 8 seats.
Yes, yeah, it was a last minute decision. Filled seats, packed seats. Yeah,
we didn't just have 8 chairs sitting in between us.
That would have been funny. Next time,
that would have been really funny. Next time we'll schedule that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're super excited to talk about it. We're gonna pair this with a classic film from one of our favorite directors, Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums. And we might be joined by some special guests, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for listening. As always, we'd love to know what you thought about Frankenstein, what you think about Bram Stoker's Dracula, if you've seen it. You're listening to us on audio, leave a review or comment. And don't forget to check out the video versions of these on YouTube at Back to the Feature Pod. You can follow the podcast on Letterboxd at Back to the Pod and on Instagram at Back to the Feature Pod. Thank you all so much. We'll be back next week talking about Sentimental Value. We'll see you next
Generational Traumedies?
That's the title.
Who says no? Who says
That's
no?
That's the title.
That's the title. Ah!
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.